Good morning. We are kicking off the first session today with unified leadership. I am intentionally not going to say much about unified leadership now to allow the experts to methodically walk us through what unified leadership is all about. Please join me in welcoming the following that are leading the unified leadership session today. And these are Tanya, our coordinator initiatives, Jimmy Messina, our regional staff member and global floor hockey and football official and athlete advisor, and Nyasha Derera, our global ambassador and SOI board member, who will tag team in leading this unified leadership session. Thank you, and please enjoy the session.
Looks like Tanya's on.
Dear Tanya, please unmute.
Thank you, Romy. Thank you so much, Charles, for that wonderful introduction. And I also just want to welcome Jimmy and Nyasha to this session of the presentation. I'll ask, yes, for this particular slide. I'm just going to ask everyone to just closely pay attention to this presentation. We just want to be able to assess your level of understanding prior to the presentation as well, and then also assess it after the end of the presentation. So for now, we're going to have a poll before we go into the presentation. Here, we just want to find out your level of understanding on unified leadership, basing on the many trainings that we've had, either during the leadership conference or materials that have been shared with programs, or any other resources you might have access to at your program level. We just want to understand the level of understanding that you have when we speak of unified leadership. Just going to give a little more minutes or seconds rather to the rest of the delegation to respond to the poll. But from what I'm seeing on the results that are currently coming in, we have a bit of a balance on every response, with just a few who don't really understand what unified leadership is. All right, Remy, you may end the poll. We have 76% of the delegation who have responded. And from the poll results, 34% have a very good knowledge on what unified leadership is. 34% again, good knowledge. 28% of us have limited knowledge, and 3% do not know anything about unified leadership. So we are going to try as much as we can to make sure that we incorporate everyone basing on this level of understanding that you've shared to guide our presentation and ensure that we accommodate everyone. Next slide, please.
Great leaders aren't born. They're made. Thousands of hours of training, pushing beyond limits, ignoring the doubters, learning to win and lose, with dignity, empathy, and courage. Special Olympics athletes have already proved that they have great potential. We simply want to empower them to fully realize it by creating the conditions in which they can thrive on and off the sports field. The unified leadership approach is about teaching inclusion, drawing on the personal experiences of athletes to create shared experiences for leaders with and without disabilities. It's about taking the lessons learned from every skill mastered, every challenge overcome, and using them. Inspiring others and showing the path to real and meaningful inclusion. It's about recognizing the key skills that athlete leaders exemplify, helping them grow, develop their capacity to lead, and share their talents with everyone. This is what our divided world needs today. This is about changing our society for the better, for all of us. Unified leaders aren't born. They rise up to the challenge when given a chance. They never give up. They will do anything to create the conditions for everyone's success, unlocking the true power of diversity. Let them lead.
Whenever I watch this video, I'm always inspired to really focus on what our organization actually stands for, which is to let our athlete leaders lead the movement. We have since moved from the stance of just being an organization for people with intellectual disabilities, and we've moved into working with people with intellectual disabilities. And now we want to focus on having people and individuals with intellectual disabilities leading the movement. So on this slide, I'm just going to briefly share on the approach that Special Olympics International and also what we expect our programs to be doing in terms of unified leadership. So for those who did mention that they know very little about unified leadership, I'm hoping that most of your questions are going to be answered on this particular slide. So when we look at unified leadership, we have 4 pillars that we mainly focus on, and that is sport, the youth. We also look to our programming, and then we also have health. So we strive to ensure that we have our athlete leaders actively engaged in these 4 areas. So it can start with, unified leadership starts with, and it also depends on strong athlete leaders. So what we do is that we strive to build the capacity of people with intellectual disabilities through leadership learned from, for example, looking at sport, leadership learned from sports such as discipline. We also have teamwork, and also leadership opportunities given to our athletes when we give them important roles such as team captain. So this can then also be taken further through development of athlete leaders who learn new leadership and roles, skills through the updated curriculum that we recently shared with the programs. I'm sure many of you did receive the new curriculum, and we also had a Train the Trainer workshop for programs that are going to be leading in implementing this new curriculum. And we have also shared resources on the new curriculum on the dashboard, the leadership dashboard that has been shared by Romy. All the resources on the new curriculum are also available there. So when we're looking at athlete leadership, especially in sport, the final step is then to ensure that meaningful roles and opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities within Special Olympics are made available to our athlete leaders. And this is looking at sport, it's looking at health, and we're also looking at schools and youth programming, and also as program leaders. So when you speak of unified leadership education, we are looking to educate people without ID and find ways in which people with ID can be integrated into all aspects of life. So for example, when we look at sports and coach training and also governance training for our program boards, we also encourage that you also give the same opportunities to your athlete leaders so that they are also trained in sports and also in governance. So in some cases, leaders with and without ID will learn together in an inclusive setting, such as a youth leadership summit or the leadership academy. Unified leadership can also even go beyond our programs to our partners as well, where they can then benefit from education sessions with our athlete leaders. These sessions can empower our external partners without ID to think about how to improve their own behaviors, their own practices, and also ensure that their workspaces are unified, that they also adapt from the norm and also include people with intellectual disabilities in their organization, and thus promoting a unified community, society, and workspace. So we have been doing a lot of different leadership work, but now unified leadership connects all of this together. Like I mentioned earlier on, we want to move from being an organization for people with intellectual disabilities and working with people with intellectual disabilities to actually being an organization that is led by people with intellectual disabilities. So we want to make sure that, you know, our influence goes beyond just the athletes and the youth and our internal leaders to teachers and caregivers and coaches and also families. So it's very relevant to anyone who plays a leadership role. That's from sports coaches to our mentors and also family members, going to the grassroots program and also our external leaders to ensure that we are trying to create a unified movement and community in our respective programs. So we also want to note that this is it's a lifelong goal, which is particularly important when it comes to transition from school to life after school, which can be very challenging for most of our athlete leaders. I've heard stories and I've also had conversations with athlete leaders that were previously engaged in specific roles within the program, either locally or even regionally, the struggles that they face trying to then integrate into the society, because we sort of like have them in a bubble, like they are safe within Special Olympics, but the moment that they want to step out of Special Olympics, they then tend to face many hurdles. And this is what unified leadership is trying to solve, to ensure that all our external partners are also trained in unified leadership so that we can, you know, map a better way for our athlete leaders should they eventually want to step out of Special Olympics and also become meaningful contributors to the society. Next slide, please. So we want to just get feedback from the program leaders on the number of athletes that you have working as staff in your programs. This can be paid or unpaid. We just want to have a better understanding of how unified leadership is structured. I'll just ask that you just be as transparent, as honest as you can. We have shared a link to access the poll in the chat box. To access the chat box, kindly just go to the bottom ribbon of your screen, click on the chat icon, and you'll be able to access the link that has been posted there. If you can't locate the chat box, I'll ask that you click on more. You should be able to then select chat and then click on the link and then begin to submit your responses. So just type in the number of athlete leaders that you have working in your program, whether paid or unpaid, and just submit the response. We are not, this is an anonymous poll. We won't be able to know who said what. We just want to have a better understanding of where the region stands in terms of unified leadership. Okay, I'm starting to see results coming in. Just give a little bit more time for those that might be facing challenges in responding. We have responses so far from 9 programs, and the majority are saying none, which is exciting because it means that we actually have work to do in terms of unified leadership. I'm sure after this conference, we can actually go start and try to find ways in which we can implement unified leadership. Okay, we'll just give maybe 20 more seconds so that we can just allow those that might be facing challenges to submit their responses. Oh, wow, I see somebody say they have 50 athletes that are working as staff in their program. That's very commendable, very commendable. All right, I will share the results from this via email for those that might want to explore this further. For now, I'll ask that we continue with the presentation. Next slide, please. So just looking at the results that we got from the poll, it's either programs do not understand how to implement unified leadership. Yes, you might have knowledge on what unified leadership is, but probably you do not really know how to integrate it into the existing programming that we currently have. So this slide, it shows 4 quadrants on the leadership activation pathways that are available for all of us to explore. I'm gonna call on Jimmy to just assist me with this part of the presentation. Jimmy is an office assistant for the Africa region, and we just want to tackle having athlete leaders as program staff, building on the previous poll, seeing that many of us do not have athlete leaders as program staff. I'm just going to ask Jimmy to share just briefly on his experience as a regional staff member, and also how he grew to be in that position, the kind of training that he had to undergo, and the preparation that was necessary for him to be able to execute his role diligently. Over to you, Jimmy.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. Good morning to you. I think what was key from my side, first I attended the athlete leadership. What was the start for me? I started there until when I joined Special Olympics South Africa as an intern. What was so helpful for the side of Special Olympics South Africa? They arranged me. They created the platform that I'm gonna be able. They give me a role that I'm gonna play. Example, if there's a training, maybe there's an event, provincial event, they'll give me a site and say, Jimmy, you're gonna assist in opening ceremony. So my duties is you collect athlete that they're gonna do the torch run. They're gonna light the torch. The one that they're gonna raise the flag. The one that they're gonna say athlete all of those collective. That was my duty. That was a build up. What my role as a specialist, as an athlete involved on Special South Africa. Another role, even the same thing apply when there's closing ceremony. So the same apply what I told on the first. Even when I think even there's coaches training, they'll give me a role that I'm gonna assist. Example, on the last day on the last day, they know that I'm good in floor work on the last day of the training. When I think Mesh, when she was marking on that time, the whole coaches were going to go outside to do practical on floor work side.
Okay, just from what you have shared, Jimmy, I see that Special Olympics South Africa intentionally engaged you and gave you meaningful roles. Just out of curiosity, were you already trained in these roles, or did you learn on the job? Did you learn as you carried out the roles? How was the experience for you the first time that you were given the task?
Because I was already committed to Special Olympics, and they created, even when they say there's a preparation, they will go through what's going to happen, what they expect from my side.
Okay, then any guidelines or information that you might want to share with our program leaders on how they can maybe identify potential candidates for as program staff, and also what they need to be prepared for as program leaders when they want to train athlete leaders as program staff. Any advice that you might want to give our program leaders?
I think number one, we need to have a CO committed. We need CO, we need a sport director, we need a mentor. That's where you're gonna having athletes. So already athletes, they played a role in their part. Already we have athletes that they are captain. So most of the time, the captain is the one that communicates with the coach, and athlete is also a middleman. So already, at least they are there. Just the only thing that we need to create those spaces that, even example, if to me that when I was attending a lot of events. So now what they did, I think even Total, they give me a camera that they know that, Special Olympics, the motto that they were driving in. If there's no PK, the event didn't happen. So they saw an opportunity to okay, fine. Jimmy's attend most of the game. Let's create that a present camera give Jimmy that will be easy. What we expect to him to do, that will be easy. Take pictures and bring it to the program that they can report. Just we need those support.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for sharing on how our programs can actively engage our athlete leaders as either regional staff or program staff. And from what you have shared with us, I just want to note that it's important that we ensure that our program athlete leaders do have a mentor who is assigned to assist them, and then to also have office staff that is also willing to also mentor them into any position or role that might be available. We're not going to explore all the 4 quadrants, but I also want to just look at the global leadership quadrant there. And we also have Nyasha on the call with us today. And I'm just going to briefly ask Nyasha to just share with us his experience on his growth from being a local AIC member, how he then grew to also become a regional representative, and then ultimately to now sit on the SOI board and also be involved in governance issues pertaining to Special Olympics International. Nyasha, if you'd like to share how that experience has been for you. Nyasha, your mic is not audible. We still can't hear you. You might have to unplug your headphones. I'm sure many of you are aware that Nyasha Guerrera has been representing all the athletes, over 6 million athletes within the region. I'm just going to speak a little bit, Nyasha, while you try to sort out your audio. If maybe your mentor can also assist you with that. We can see that you're online, but we can't hear you. So you probably need to unplug your device and maybe speak using the speakers from the computer. But as I was saying, Nyasha currently represents over 6 million athletes on the board as the Global Congress Chair. And this is a great example of what our athlete leaders can do when given the chance in terms of governance. Hi, Nyasha, would you like to try again?
Hi, Tanya.
Yes, perfect. I can hear you now. Hi, Nyasha, good morning. You can go ahead, Nyasha and Shay. We seem to be experiencing...
Hi, Tanya, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, Nyasha. Please go ahead and share your experience. Nyasha, are you there? All right. My sincere apologies about that. It's very unfortunate that Nyasha is not able to speak to us at this present moment, but I just wanted him to speak on how his experience has been. I remember meeting Nyasha in 2017. Then he was just recently, he had been recently appointed as an athlete leader in Special Olympics Zimbabwe, and he had his very first regional experience traveling to South Africa for a leadership academy. And I remember having a conversation with Nyasha where he shared to say that being given an opportunity to explore what he can do is something that changed his perspective on his abilities. He says he then chose to focus on what he can do rather than focus on his inabilities. And this just goes on to show what...
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Nyasha, you're back on?
Yeah, my network is behaving though.
Okay, we can hear you clearly now. So I'll just stop and give you a chance to share. Would you like me to repeat the question or you are all right?
Yes, you can repeat the question. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we are currently exploring the different pathways available for our athlete leaders in the movement. And I know that you currently sit on the Special Olympics International Board, but you started at a very low level. You started as a local Athlete Input Council member. How has that experience been for you to grow from local level up to all the way up to a global set?
Thank you so much for the question, Tanya. It's amazing. I would just want to highlight that over the past years, I've developed as an athlete leader with the help from the local Athlete Input Council. In that, I've been able to grow and being trained as an effective athlete leader. I just want to thank the program for availing this opportunity to me as an athlete and to my fellow athletes as well, for giving us that kind of opportunity to develop and to be the best that we can and that I can as well as an athlete leader. I also want to thank the region for enhancing other leadership opportunity by creating meaningful engagement for us athletes. That has given me and seen me traveling to Dominican Republic, representing the AIC region for Africa. And that opportunity has been availed to me to be the leader that I am today. Thank you for shaping me to be the leader I am today. We have this saying which says, it takes the whole community to raise up a child. Indeed, you raised me up. Thank you for teaching me leadership in every aspect. Now it's a dream come true, sitting on the SOI borders all around the globe. That's true leadership in action. thank you so much, the Africa Region Leadership, for creating this platform for it's around the world.
Wow, thank you so much, Nyasha, for that
And-
very insightful sharing. I just want to further probe. You say that you were engaged in meaningful roles and that you were shaped. Would you want to share on how some of the tools that the program used to prepare you for a leadership role at a regional and also at a global level? What sort of training or practice did you have to undergo for you to be able to be that good in governance? I've seen you in action on the SOI board. I've seen how you ask questions without being afraid. What kind of training was necessary for you to develop into that leader?
You know, I just want to thank the region for giving me the opportunity to express myself, because as an athlete, as a speaker, because this opportunity, for example, I've learned a lot through leadership academics. It has taught me about emotional intelligence, social awareness. It has taught me about leadership in all aspects, in that I'm able even to stand up for other athletes. Those are real opportunities that we have been given with the region as athletes, and that has helped me as well to believe that despite having intellectual disability, you can be anyone, you can do it. And I just want to thank the region for giving us an opportunity to lead, to giving us leading role. They are not also giving us, they are not just there to give us that ceremonial times whereby they just take us being in the meeting, no any input that we are giving, but they're not taking us as decorations, but they're giving us those meaningful roles that we can say this is a meaningful role. For example, even if you see most of the athlete input council within our region, they're doing something within their programs, within their respective programs, that shows that the region is with athletes at the heart.
Oh, thank you so much, Nyasha, for sharing on that. And just to some takeaway points from that, I noted that you said the Leadership Academy actually assisted you and molded you into the leader that you are today. And just to speak on that, we also do have resources that have been made available to the region from SOI on the new curriculum, where we are training our athlete leaders in governance, and we are also teaching them emotional intelligence. You will see that as you browse through the new curriculum, we have so many courses that we have developed for the athlete leaders that speak to their emotional intelligence, that also speak to their personal development. And these resources are available to our program leaders who might be interested in having their leaders trained in governance and also as frontline leaders. Next slide, please. So just building from the previous slide where we explored the
Dear
different
Tanya,
pathways.
we're having some feedback from your audio. Please let us know if you can remove any other devices.
I only have one device connected.
This sounds good. Please continue.
Okay. So just building from the previous exploration that we had, the current slide shows results that we got from a Train the Trainer workshop, which we had about 3 weeks ago with representatives from your programs that lead athlete leadership. And I think I just want to note that from the spread of the results that we got, we see that we have many of our athlete leaders currently being engaged as frontline leaders. And we would just want to encourage our programs to also explore the other three alternatives available. We also want you to work on having your athlete leaders trained in local programming. I know many boards have various committees that they have, the fundraising committee, it could be a games planning committee, it could be an events committee. We are also encouraging you to also have your athlete leaders actively participating in those roles, so that we, as a region and as a program, we also activate all the different pathways that are available when we speak of athlete leadership. Next slide, please. So building up from the previous slide as well, we saw that many of the athlete leaders that we have are currently activated as coaches and also as assistant coaches. And we are very much honored to also have a very renowned athlete leader amongst us, who's also been able to officiate matches at a global level in the UAE. We've also had him officiate in Austria. And Jimmy Masina has really gone all the way in showing us how, you know, athlete leadership, when we speak of athlete leadership in sport leadership, looks like. Jimmy is a referee in soccer and floor hockey, and we just want him to also speak a little bit about a meaningful engagement of our athlete leaders when we speak of sport leadership. So this is mainly focusing on sport. We just want to explore the different ways in which our programs can actively engage our athlete leaders in the sport leadership department. Jimmy Masina, if you'd like to just briefly share on the various opportunities and meaningful roles that do exist within Special Olympics that can be explored by our athlete leaders.
Well, thank you, Chai. I think I think that there's so many opportunities. It is depend with the program that how they pick. I think there's so many opportunities that athletes they can more involved, especially when on that age that when they feel that they don't want to longer play. There's another role that they can start officiating, but you find that most of the challenge, Special Olympics, they're not credited to become maybe specific sporting code trainers. So this is a time where Special Olympics, they need to outsource. Example, I think us in South Africa was that I wanted to certify as an official, as a footballer. So that's where we started we went outside to outsource the training in local federation. So yes, and then I was trained because I was already officiating in Special Olympics, but then the challenge was we needed to get certified. So what they did, they created that platform that went outside and get trained, that are able to come back and officiate in the Special Olympics Center next time.
Okay, so from what Jimmy has shared, I picked up two things here. There's an issue of, encouraging programs to outsource certain skills, or to outsource certain requirements that they may have within their own program. From what Jimmy has said, this is in regards to Special Olympics South Africa, because that is where he was currently registered with. They did outsource his training. They found experts who could train Jimmy in being an official, and also, make ways for him to become certified. And this is something that we are also encouraging our program leaders, that when you're looking at grooming athlete leaders, especially in the sporting field, we are encouraging you that you look to getting partnerships with federations that actually do train individuals in being certified umpires, certified referees, or certified coaches. And I know that some of our programs on here, you actually do have these certified individuals, maybe as volunteers within your programming. And so when we speak of unified leadership, we are now just asking the programs to just go a step further instead of just, leaning on those people and their expertise, maybe just during the games, the national games that you have, or the local games that you have within your sub-regions, we are also encouraging you to also engage them in the training of your athlete leaders when it comes to sport leadership. Jimmy, if you just want to also share briefly on how long did it take for you to get certified? How long did you have to, train and practice being an official and also practice the rules and regulations of soccer and floor hockey? How long did that process take for you to be fully certified?
I'll start. I'll start with the floor hockey one. Because floor hockey one, I think I play. I think I played for 10 years. I played full. When after that, that's where I started to focus on officiating. That's where become fully officiated, credited to. Especially because they always done a training that they give me a certificate now fully official. And I think the one for football was already, because if this game, as I said earlier, they created a platform that already I was doing it. I think I would say maybe could be 3 years, 4 years football, but the one that took me a long time was I was still playing that time before. And I think another one that I need to share, if you know that when we have events, special weeks, when we hire a professional photographer, I think Bill when was here in South Africa, and Charles spoke with Will that please can you just partner with Jimmy and train Jimmy to become a photographer, because already Jimmy was doing that, but we wanted somebody that professional that you're gonna train more Jimmy. I think if maybe you can start copy that that thing that could work for us as a movement. That's what
Yeah, you really do bring up. You really do bring up a good point, Jimmy. Yeah, which is why we are really trying to push to have our programs also train our external partners in unified leadership. I know that it's quite a huge scare for somebody who has not, trained anyone with intellectual disability to believe that they can train somebody to become maybe a professional photographer, like you said, or an official. And we are just encouraging our programs to make use of the resources that have been made available to train your external partners, so that instead of just having them assist you in once-off events, you also have them continuously mentoring your athlete leaders and also having them, equipped with skills that can allow them to be engaged in meaningful roles within Special Olympics and also outside of Special Olympics. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for sharing on that. Really appreciate it. Next slide, please. So I'm also going to ask Nyasha did that also, inspire us in ways in which our program leaders can also groom leaders that can, excel in terms of governance. Nyasha, I'm going to ask you to just also share briefly, just building on the previous conversation that we've had, any tools in particular that you'd want to encourage our program leaders to make use of as they look to train athlete leaders in governance. You spoke of tokenism in your previous sharing to say that you want athletes to move from just being, a token on the board, but to actually inspiring meaningful change. It could be at program level, regional level, or global level. How best do you think programs can train their athletes to not be afraid to speak when we're looking at this at a local level? Over to you, Nyasha.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tanya, for such a question. It's amazing. Once an athlete is always an athlete. Person who's not an athlete can come and go and leave the program, but the athlete is there, is affected in everyday life. So there's need for programs to include athletes in everything that they do, whether in health, in facilitating. It helps even the program leaders are not there, the athletes is able to help other athletes. So there's that much need to train athletes in more meaningful roles, so that at the end of the day, the program will stand on its feet. And also, I just want to thank the need to train more people, more mentors who can help athletes to develop various skills in various expertise. For example, Special Olympics major, it does not major just only sport, it majors in health, in education. So there's that need to train more athletes in meaningful roles. For example, you heard from Jimmy that is a qualified official. When it comes to national games, a program does not need to hire an expert team. Maybe they can hire one or two, but not more of them, because there's help, and also there is saving of resources, because that money which we're going to give to other people who have come, it's shared in the program. So resources wise, it's good. You save resources when you train more athletes, and also it keeps your program growing and moving and inspiring the outsiders. If an athlete is empowered, the outside world will see that it can employ that athletes in their companies, in their different, because this opportunity that created within the program can open doors for the program with other partners like companies, so that there's no that burden of program going there to ask for funds is begging. But there's that mutual sharing of talents and gifts. For example, what are we giving to that company, and what that company is giving us? It's not that tokenism at the end of the day. So that's what we are advocating as athletes, because at the end of the day, we've got a life to live. We've got lots and lots we need to achieve. So we need that development at the end of the day. I don't know if within your
you have actually answered very well, Nyasha. And just to pick from what you said, I've actually noted two very key points here. You spoke like a true board member to actually speak into the bottom line, the financial side of our programs. We know that funding is actually a very huge factor when we speak about, programming, and you actually raised a very good saving tip to say that if you train more athletes, you actually cut down on, some expenses that would have otherwise been spent on paying external people. So tips to you program leaders on here: identify athletes that you can see potential in them, train them, and then this will actually help you cut down on your bottom line. And you also mentioned having athletes also engage in meaningful roles in terms of fundraising and also governance, as you clearly said, that when you are approaching an external partner, it makes more sense when they can actually see that you are not just asking them to be unified in their organization, but you're also showing them how they can actually, create a unified workplace, because you also have a staff member that is working for you. So in the event that they need tips on how to create a safe working environment for people with ID, as the program, you can actually give them first-hand experience to say that we have 5 athletes on our staff, and this is how we have maybe improved our economics, or this is how maybe we've improved our workspace, or how we actually carry out our meetings to ensure that we incorporate our athletes with ID to make them feel included. So it's not just us trying to pass on the responsibility of creating unified workspaces to external partners, but we are also taking that responsibility and leading by example. Next slide, please. So we just also want to explore, I know that many of our programs on here, 34% of you responded that you are very much aware on unified leadership, but I believe that you may be facing challenges on how you can effectively implement unified leadership. So for this particular poll, we just want to hear from you that are on the call. We are asking you to identify any barriers that you are currently facing when it comes to implementing unified leadership. This could be either internally or externally. We just want you to help us help you in coming up with resources that can better tackle the issues that you face. So a link has been posted in the chat box. You just go click on the link and you can submit your response on the barriers that programs are facing in terms of implementation of unified leadership.
In interest of time, Tanya, can we also concurrently with our slide invite Abayemi to speak while people are completing our poll?
Sure, Romy. So we'll have Abayemi also share briefly on the barriers that they experienced or are currently experiencing in Special Olympics Nigeria as they try to implement unified leadership. Abayemi, I believe your mic has been enabled. You can unmute and share.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. So in Special Olympics Nigeria, I would say that some of our challenges include, one, our athletes really outside of Special Olympics don't have much opportunities outside for empowerment. Two, we've noticed that even though our brand as the Special Olympics brand is well known and recognized internationally, sometimes within Nigeria, not a lot of people know about people with intellectual disabilities and also Special Olympics Nigeria. And three, when we do go to meet these people, it would be really good for our athletes to be able to speak up for themselves and actually give nice speeches talking about how, living and interacting with others is sometimes challenging when people don't give them the right opportunities. So what we tend to do now to challenge to meet these challenges is, one, we try to educate people with intellectual disabilities, that's our athletes, and most of the time alongside mentors who can actually help them sustain their skills and also build inclusive mindsets. So we do try to provide a lot of opportunities for them to learn new skills that they can use to empower themselves. Two, we try to bring unified leadership to various organizations and companies within Nigeria. We write to as many as we can and see how favorably we are responded to, and when we get favorable responses, we bring unified leadership to the company, inside their company, to their staff and employees and their management team, so that they are aware of Special Olympics, they are aware of people with intellectual disabilities that live among us and need an opportunity, need to be given an opportunity. And then three, to be able to have more of an effect, we need our athletes to speak for themselves. And to do that, we're trying to really push within our athlete leadership programming various opportunities for our athletes to perfect their skills in various leadership opportunities, be it within a coach level, or if it's a messenger level, public speaking, graphic design. We just try to continue to bring athlete leadership programming for our athletes, so that when they are given the opportunities to speak or to showcase their abilities, they are ready and well prepared. Using these three solutions, we've been able to, at least since 2019, we've been able to enter 2 companies. One company successfully an opportunity for our athletes to come in for internship opportunities in 2020. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19, it has been suspended, and with the hopes that since things are opening back up, we'll start having that conversation again. And then also, we were, even despite the lockdown, we were still able to bring online youth activation to the general public, unified leadership to the general public, and to at least one company last year. We were able to get a favorable response and provide unified leadership to that company via Zoom. And that was also a good thing that we were able to achieve. Other ways we also try to achieve, interactions between people, athletes and people without intellectual disabilities is sporting organizations. We have been partnering with a lot of sporting organizations to get our athletes to be more visible and to participate more. In what before the lockdown, we had a partnership with one sports agency in Lagos, who they were hosting a sorry about that. They were hosting a football championship, and we're able to get our athletes to come and do a sports challenge before, and also to lead a unified leadership session. So with these things, these are the ways in which we try to, get our unified leadership programming out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibiami, for that insightful sharing. In the interest of time, I'm just going to allow Ansela and Daphne to just speak briefly, just for a minute each, because we're supposed to be rounding off now. So Ansela, you may go ahead and just briefly share on the barriers that you've experienced in ESO South Africa.
Thank you so much, Tanya. There's been a lot of great discussion today. But I think in terms of us as a program, specifically after having the opportunity to attend the Unified Leadership Training in Ireland, one of the things that we came back with as the team that traveled was that we need to get unified leadership right within our own organization. We really need to work on our structures. We need to go back to basics, and we really need to ensure that when we've trained leaders and we've given them abilities, how are we utilizing that within our own organization to start off with? I mean, we're not ignoring the external opportunities, but right now as a program, I think our biggest challenge that we're facing is ensuring that we get unified leadership right within Special Olympics in South Africa as an organization. And to that end, our focus for definitely this year and perhaps next year as well will be ensuring that we find ways to include our athlete leaders in every level of our organization, from grassroots all the way up to the national office and onto the board. So that as a program is our focus at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ansela. Over to you, Daphne.
Hello, Tanya. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So our greatest challenge is ESO Zimbabwe. The greatest barrier was skepticism from our program staff, coaches, volunteers, peers, and teachers, engaging athletes in major roles at major events.
Could we keep the slide
forgetting
up?
that in Special Olympics. Hello, can I go ahead?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead. Yes, you can.
Yes, forgetting that in Special Olympics, there's nothing for us without us. And we have taken it as the Special Olympics program staff to lead, to include, taking note that athletes are given, if athletes are given proper instructions and demonstrations, they can do even better than the other individuals without intellectual disabilities. So now we have our athletes being involved in very, very major roles in the program, whereby our global ambassador, Ms. Nyasha Derera, has been part of the program as well in public speaking and partnering with the Ministry of Education, where he has been addressing school teachers and changing their attitude towards other teachers who are taking the special needs class. There was a lot of bullying and discrimination in teachers. So with the help of our athletes, this has changed a lot of attitudes and perceptions in schools. There are a lot of things that I can share, but for now I've been given just 1 minute. So
yeah, I know.
I thank you.
I'll kindly ask that you email all your contributions through and I'll be able to share them with the rest of the group. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to kindly ask that we participate in the last Slido. I noted that from the responses sent through, many of you mentioned resources as a major barrier. So resources is very broad. So can you please just break down the resources that you need for athlete leadership? So I'm kindly gonna ask Crystal to share the last link in the chat box for our program leaders on here to share, to be specific on the resources that you need. And as we take that last poll, I'm just going to ask for the last slide, please, where we're just going to be sharing with you program leaders on the next steps that we currently have in Special Olympics with regards to unified leadership. We are developing an education series that is focused on providing our programs with information on what they need to use if they're doing presentations, whether internally or externally. We are working on equipping you with the right resources to make your job easy in delivering these trainings. So for now, we only have resources for the warm-up session, and these have been shared as well amongst with the other resources. As we get resources for the kickoff session and also the score, the deep dive, we'll be sure to share this with you. I would just like to thank you all for listening in, and in rounding off, we are going to just do that poll again, and I'm hopeful that you now have a little bit more understanding on what unified leadership is, and that from your contributions, we are going to try to find better ways to implement unified leadership. I'll ask Ronnie to just run the poll one more time to assess the level of understanding post this presentation. Thank you all, and thank you so much, Jimmy and Nyasha, for assisting me with this presentation.
We can see, I think I'll begin to speak. We can see the post evaluation indicates that that there's very good understanding of unified leadership, and that we still have a few that have limited, but we have those resources that have been displayed, and we are available, the regional staff as a resource to programs to continue assisting you. We'll be conducting training in unified leadership. So thank you for participating in the poll. We really appreciate it. There we go. That's the final result there. Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, everybody. I just want to conclude this session. I just want to first and foremost thank Tanya, Jimmy, and Nyasha for that education in unified leadership. We are educated now on what unified leadership is, and most importantly, would like to encourage all of us to implement it. And as you can see in my wording, I'm very careful. I'm saying all of us. That includes me. The implementation of unified leadership is dependent on all of us to always be aware of the interactions each day. It is the minor adjustments in our actions, in our words, in our gestures that make the big difference. Don't underestimate the little things that we do. Consequently, this is creating a result that is welcoming and not harmful. The latter is what we aim for, and that is the reason and the importance of this session. Very, very well delivered. And if you have the clapping icon with you and the thumbs up, you can give that round of applause to Jimmy, to Nyasha, and to Tanya.